Today, we take another look at an angry Dark Souls hater, this one coming from my favorite website on the entire internet, known as Reddit. I have a feeling the Redditors of the universe aren't gonna like this video, they're gonna downvote my video, but it doesn't change the fact that Redditors are some of the worst people I've ever had the misprivilege of sharing the internet with. Actually, I'm 15 years old and Reddit is the best website on the internet. You're just mad you don't have as much Reddit karma as me, bro. Shut the f up. I tried Dark Souls and it sucked. Just a big nope. The combat is kinda neat, but the fact is the game develops into a repetitive grind almost immediately. So you die and then have to carefully fight your way through the same part of the game again and again and again and again. Homie, the only way you have to repeat the same area over and over and over again is if you die over and over and over again. And you say you're carefully fighting your way through, but if you're so careful, how come you're dying so much? Something isn't adding up here. This isn't good game design. Trial and error is bad game design, and that's what this game is, in addition to memorization. Also, frankly, the dodge doesn't work very well. One gets stuck on all sorts of unseen objects or invisible walls. So apparently now trial and error just equals bad game design because this fucking Redditor said so. As for the roll quote-unquote not working or whatever, you're either trying to roll diagonally while locked on, or you're fat rolling because you have too much heavy armor or equipment on. Also, I've played through Dark Souls, I've completed the game a few times, and I've not once ever got stuck on an invisible wall, unless this guy literally rolls against fucking walls the entire time he plays. And grinding the game is mostly grinding to level up strong enough to even be able to take on the monsters in the beginning area. What bullshit. You'd think they'd make the beginning enticing, but it's just an early beatdown with Big Knight that just clobbers you to death instantly, skeletons that do not die at all, and a Minotaur thing that leaves you no room to dodge, which doesn't work well to begin with. Okay, first of all, if you have to grind in the very beginning to kill the basic monsters, you have no chance of beating Dark Souls. I hate to tell you that, man. You might want to take your ass on back to The Sims 4. Maybe play some Cooking Mama. As for the skeletons that quote-unquote don't die, first of all, yes they can die, you just need to get a certain item, I'm not gonna spoil it. But that is a more difficult area meant for the later half of the game that you can choose to go to early if you want some early upgrades. And the big Minotaur looking thing that leaves you no room to dodge. Well, there's room to dodge, dude. I should probably play more to give it a proper review, but it's not that fun or interesting to push on through the already extremely repetitive beginning, and that is due to the core mechanics of trial and error. No way around it, the game gets real tired and boring, really fast. Yeah, you probably should play the game more before writing out a really stupid review like this. And then you say it's not fun or interesting to push on, which the same could be said about this dogshit review. And what's with the no pause function? Is this game so hardcore it won't even let you pause the game to maybe answer the phone? That's just unnecessary and also a violation of basic game design. Okay, so with that logic, is every single video game where you're unable to pause just a violation of game design? Is Mario Kart Online not allowing you to pause a violation of game design? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and only a Redditor could come up with some statement like that. The reason why you can't pause the game is because people could easily abuse that to beat the bosses by just pausing and swapping gears several times in the boss fight. And you would know this if you actually spent enough time in the game to beat several bosses and understand how the game actually works. This post right here is a perfect example of why you need to actually play through the game before writing out a review like this. Because if you were to play through the game, you'd understand why things are the way they are. The controls are fiddly, can't roll in the exact direction I want to, and frequently stabbed right next to an enemy because the lock-on doesn't work correctly, which, by the way, because there's no apparently decent way of aiming ranged weapons, renders them effectively useless. The riposte is cool, but doesn't always work when it seems like it should, and the kick and leap attacks don't always register when you need them to. You can actually roll in whatever direction you want, but you can only roll in 4 directions when you're locked onto an enemy. Once again, if you were to play through more of the game, you would understand this, and some bosses are actually better to be fought locked off, including the first big roadblock that a lot of players run into. And there is a decent way of aiming ranged weapons. It's called locking onto the enemy and then using the ranged weapon. As for the leap and kick attacks, the leap works fine for me, but the kick is kinda useless in my opinion, like you barely ever use that. Dark Souls is clunky, repetitive, grindy, kind of ugly, poorly conceived, and way too hard. Not for me, no thank you. And yeah, that's the end of this awful review. Perfect example of why you need to play through a game before making a review. And yeah, peace.